When I turned, I felt a weight lift off me. I'm telling you, it was like 1,000 tons of weight. Sin has a weight. It can be put on the scales. It has a weight. And I felt so light. I couldn't explain the joy. I felt great. Even the flowers looked nice. Things that passed before that looked ordinary now look supernatural. I was so happy because I had changed. It was at an altar. So altars consistently in the Bible play the role of being platforms of exchange, where I can exchange my house bills for time spent with God on the altar. So that instead of my bills talking to me for hours, I decide I could talk to my bills, try to figure out how to pay them for the next 3 hours, or I can take 3 hours and give it to the altar and see what the altar does with the bills. The mystery of altars. Altars are so important, and every patriarch that in the Bible that we honor, that we look to, every one of them without exclusion, walked with God, had to build God an altar without exception. The first thing that Noah does when he comes out of the flood is not build himself a house, which would be the most logical thing to do. You have just come out of the flood. Everything is destroyed. The first thing you want to do is build you a place to sleep. He understands God. A house without an altar is vulnerable to all the demonic forces. He comes out, and the first thing Noah does is builds to God an altar. And he gives God an offering. That altar begins to talk to God. The fragrance of what came from that place of exchange was so powerful that God smelled the aroma of this man's worship coming from an altar. By the way, God does not accept worship which does not come from an altar. And so it comes from that place. That's why if a heathen, if an unbeliever sings Amazing Grace, it is not worship, it's singing. When you sing Amazing Grace, it's worship, because he has already made your temple, your body, into the temple of the Holy Ghost. So that's why heathens can sing songs of gospel songs and go back to fornicating, acting like devils, because to them it's a song, but to you it becomes worship because you have an altar inside. Because God does not accept worship from anybody unless there's an altar.